Premier Furey and Minister O'Regan. It was an opportunity to really catch up on all the incredible work we and our teams have been able to do over the past many months. The leaning in on so many different files, the alignment, the collaboration, the partnerships, and the commitment to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador and to all Canadians that we've been able to put at the forefront of all of our relationships has been really exciting over the past months and resulted in an absolutely outstanding meeting today. I have to say one of my highlights of the meeting was actually being able to thank Alison personally and directly, Dr. Alison Furey, for her leadership during a very difficult time when she stepped up like so many others and helped out people across the country. It was a really important thing. It is, as always, an incredible pleasure to be back in Newfoundland and Labrador, and it always feels like coming home because I have so many good friends here. But one of the things over the years you've heard me say many different ways, many different times, is that the federal government will, particularly this federal government, will always be there as a friend and a partner for Newfoundland and Labrador. We will be there through the difficult times. We will be there to build a strong and prosperous future for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. We've worked for a number of months on some really big issues together, including the issue of Muskrat Falls. And on that front, I can announce that we've landed agreements with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador that will ensure financial sustainability of the project while protecting people from major electricity increases. There's always more work to be done, but we're confident that this agreement is a big step in the right direction. During our meeting, we also talked about the importance of supporting families with affordable, accessible, high-quality childcare, and that's part of the announcement we'll be making later this afternoon as well. And on that, this afternoon, we will be taking questions from media and revealing more information on it, but it was really important as well that we ensure that everyone properly understands the details of what we've been able to work out, which is why there is a technical briefing for media in the next half hour or so that will allow you to have a full understanding of the various agreements that have been reached and how it is all about setting Newfoundlanders and Labradorians on the right path for the long term, for a strong and prosperous future, and that all of Canada will stand with all of you as we move into a brighter future beyond COVID, towards net zero and towards shared prosperity for all of us. C'est toujours un grand plaisir d'être ici, particulièrement avec Andrew. On a des grosses choses à annoncer dans quelques heures, mais je suis très content de pouvoir être ici avec toi, Andrew, et je te passe la parole, évidemment.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Today is indeed an historic day for Newfoundland and Labrador. And I want to thank you, Prime Minister, for taking the time to come here today and have such an incredible meeting. This is what Canada should be: collaboration, federal partners, working with provincial partners to create a strong, prosperous future, not just for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, but indeed the country. When we work together, we are all stronger. We are all better. And this today is an example of that collaboration. My friends, you know, Muskrat Falls has been the #1 issue facing Newfoundlanders and Labradorians now for well over a decade. Everywhere I've gone across this beautiful province, it is the pervasive issue. Whether it's a new mother or a retiree, a pensioner, they all ask, what are we going to do about Muskrat Falls? Will my rates actually double? I can't afford it. I can't afford childcare. I can't afford to pay an extra $200, $300 a month on my electricity bill. When I reached out to the Prime Minister and through Dominic LeBlanc and Minister O'Regan and expressed these concerns, they knew right away that this would affect the bottom line of each and every one of you. And as a result, we landed on a deal today that I know, is a big day for Newfoundland and Labrador, and will finally get the muskrat off our back. We all know the significance of this day. The fact that, over a decade ago, this project was sanctioned at $6.2 billion with a 5-year timeline. And we don't need to revisit what happened, but it certainly has spiraled from there. But this deal will allow the confidence and the comfort for that single mom, that pensioner, to know that not only will your rates not double, we will not hit the point at which elasticity kicks in and there will be rate shock. There will be more details about that in this afternoon's announcement and in the technical briefing. But I had to tell you that I'm so proud to be standing here today on behalf of all of you to be your premier for this particular day in Newfoundland and Labrador's history. I have to thank the Prime Minister for his hard work and efforts on this. Minister O'Regan, of course, for your relentless, ruthless participation in such a tough negotiation, representing each and every one of you at the negotiating table. I notice in the crowd there are members of the negotiating team. When I took over just under a year ago, this was the top priority that I wanted to focus on, and I realized by putting NALCOR and Government of Newfoundland and Labrador together collaboratively, instead of fighting each other, working together, we could have a top-notch negotiating team, and that's what we did. And I can't thank Brendan Paddock enough for leading that negotiating team. Thank you, Mr. Paddock and the team behind me. So, of course, this is a fiscal and financial deal that will let us dream bigger, bolder, and move forward for what we know can be a solid path towards a sustainable future for Newfoundland and Labrador. I look forward to talking about it more at the next meeting, which is also in the next announcement, which will also let us dream big and allow families to reach their full potential. But today, remember where you were today when we landed on a deal to get Muskrat off our backs. Thank you very much.
Welcome, everyone. Bienvenue à tous. Today we are gathering from many communities throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. Our members from the island are from the ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk peoples, and our participants from Labrador are from the lands of the original people of Labrador, the Innu and the Inuit. We offer our respects to all our Indigenous cultures and recognize their continued connection to the land. My name is Liz Kidd, and I'm the President and CEO of College of the North Atlantic. Merci d'avoir choisi notre campus, Prince Philip Drive, dans la capitale de notre belle province, pour accueillir cet événement aujourd'hui. Nous ne pourrions pas être plus fiers. Thank you all for choosing our Prince Philip Drive campus in the capital city of this beautiful province to host this event today. We could not be more honored. Nous avons de nombreux invités spéciaux et d'honneur aujourd'hui, dont le Premier ministre, le très honorable Justin Trudeau. Merci de vous joindre à nous en personne aujourd'hui et nous espérons que vous apprécierez votre séjour ici. We have many special and honored guests today, including the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau. Thank you for joining us in person today. It's been so nice to get together again, and we hope that you enjoy your time here in Newfoundland and Labrador. J'aimerais également souhaiter la bienvenue à l'honorable Seamus O'Regan, ministre des Ressources naturelles et député du district de St. John's Sud, Mount Pearl, l'honorable Ahmed Hussein, ministre de la Famille, des Enfants et du Développement social, l'honorable Andrew Furey, premier ministre de la province de Terre-Neuve et Labrador, et l'honorable Tom Osborne, ministre de l'Éducation. I would also like to welcome the Honorable Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Natural Resources and MP for the District of St. John's South, Mount Pearl, the Honorable Ahmed Hussein, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, the Honorable Andrew Furey, Premier of the Province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and the Honorable Tom Osborne, Minister of Education. Sans plus tarder, veuillez vous joindre à moi pour souhaiter la bienvenue au très honorable Justin Trudeau. Without further ado, please join me in a warm welcome to the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. First off, thank you, Liz, for that introduction and for everything you do as President and CEO of the College of the North Atlantic. It's great to be back in St. John's with Premier Furey and the Provincial Minister of Education, Tom Osborne. Andrew, it's always good to see you, particularly in person. You know, we've spent the past number of months working together virtually, both on calls with the other First Ministers, but also on a lot of bilateral issues, a lot of great conversations. And I have to say, it has been an absolute joy to work alongside you in partnership on so many different issues that matter deeply, not just to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, but to all Canadians. Your leadership here and across the country is deeply appreciated, Andrew. I also want to give a big shout out to Minister O'Regan, who obviously is a strong voice for Newfoundland and Labrador around the cabinet table, but also continues every single day to lead the country as Minister of Natural Resources. It is always great to be in your hometown, Seamus. Thank you so much for welcoming me back, dear friend. And I also want to highlight Minister Ahmed Hussein, who has been, over the past number of years, working incredibly hard right across the country with his provincial counterparts to advance issues that matter so much to so many Canadian families. We're here to talk about childcare, and I know that he pointed out to me that Tom Osborne and others have been extraordinary partners in negotiating, getting to the right place, and putting the needs of families and kids and of our economy first and foremost, because as we'll talk about in a bit, childcare isn't just about families, it isn't just about a social program. It's also an extraordinary driver of economic growth by allowing for more people to not have to choose between careers and children, particularly when it comes to women. But Ahmed has been an extremely strong voice for families right across the country. It's always great to have you here. And of course, I can't come to Newfoundland and Labrador without giving a really, really warm shout out to our extraordinary Liberal team here today. Scott, Ken, Terence, Goody, and Yvonne, thank you very much for being such great voices for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and really good friends. Merci à tous ceux qui se joignent à nous aujourd'hui. Que vous soyez des parents, des enfants, des éducateurs ou des étudiants, on continue de travailler avec vous pour bâtir un meilleur avenir pour les gens de Terre-Neuve et Labrador et pour tous les Canadiens. Earlier today, we had a very productive meeting with Premier Furey. We talked about recovery from this pandemic, which includes, of course, building a cleaner future and creating good middle-class jobs. I mean, I have to highlight that even as we struggle sometimes with political conversations around whether it's the economy or the environment, Andrew, like me, has understood from the very beginning that the only path forward for a stronger economy and for better jobs for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians is to also step up in our fight against climate change and in our investments in protecting the environment. And that's exactly why it's been such a pleasure to work with you. But I do have to highlight that for an oil-producing province like Newfoundland and Labrador, to recognize unanimously in your House of Assembly how important it is to move towards a net zero future speaks well, not just of all your elected representatives, but indeed all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who understand the path that we can take to build a better future for everyone. So it's an incredible pleasure to talk with you about that, but also dig in a little more deeply to the province's particular and unique situations and bring forward particular and unique solutions. First off, let's start with the financial restructuring of Muskrat Falls and the Lower Churchill projects. Our government is committed, and has been committed a long time, to working with Newfoundland and Labrador to make sure people in the Atlantic region have a reliable, long-term, clean source of energy. This province has a lot of hydroelectricity potential, and the projects are part of our plan to reduce emissions in Canada and fight climate change. So on that front, today, I can announce that we've reached an agreement in principle in which the federal government will provide $2 billion to help the projects remain on stable financial footing. That's $1 billion as an investment in the province's portion of the Labrador Island Link, and $1 billion as a loan for the Muskrat Falls and Labrador transmission assets. Secondly, and on a separate track, the federal government is prepared to commit to annual transfers that would be equivalent to the value of Canada's net revenue from the Hibernia offshore project, with revenue estimated to be around As all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians know, this has been a conversation that has been going on for many, many years between provincial government and federal governments on the issue of Hibernia, and we are very, very pleased to be able to come to this groundbreaking, forward-looking agreement for decades to come. With revenue estimated to be around $3.2 billion over the remainder of its life, these transfers will ensure that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are the beneficiaries of this project, and that the province has what it needs to support the people who live and work here. When it comes to building a better future for everyone, one of our top priorities is to be there for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. It's a promise I made a long time ago to all of you, and it's one we continue to stand by as we work forward together. Of course, another promise that we made, not just in the beginning of this pandemic, but from the beginning of my time in politics, is that we would be there for families. And we consistently have, whether it's with the CCB, with investments to support kids, and we're going to continue to make life more affordable and easier for families. On le sait, la pandémie a été difficile pour les familles, particulièrement pour les mères, qui ont dû trop souvent choisir entre leurs enfants et leur carrière durant la dernière année et demie. Plus que jamais, c'est le moment de rebâtir en mieux pour s'assurer que tout le monde ait une chance de réussir et de s'épanouir. Here at the College of the North Atlantic, I had the chance to speak with parents as well as students in the Early Childhood Education program. You all know that high-quality, affordable childcare is a necessity, and that's also why we're here today. In April, we laid out our plan to build the first ever Canada-wide early learning and childcare system in Budget 2021. And this afternoon, we're taking yet another step to make that a reality. I can announce that we've reached an agreement with Newfoundland and Labrador to make childcare more accessible and more affordable for parents here in this province. If you're a family with young children, or if you're planning to have kids, here's what this agreement will mean for you. As early as 2023, the average fees for children under 6 in a regulated daycare will drop from $25 a day to $10 a day. In other words, you could be soon spending less than half of what you're paying now. And within 5 years, almost 6,000 new spaces will be created. As part of the agreement, a new full-day, year-round pre-kindergarten program for 4-year-olds will also start rolling out in 2023. For parents, this agreement is huge, and it represents real change for hardworking families. More affordable childcare will help save hundreds of dollars every month to families right across the province. It'll allow more women to build careers knowing that their children are in good hands with great educators and providers, and with quality childcare, it will ensure that all kids get the best possible support in life. As I mentioned earlier, I know that many of you here today are studying to become educators, or you're already working as educators. When I spent time in front of the classroom as a teacher, even if my students were a bit older than 6, I remember how rewarding it was to accompany young people on their learning journey. As educators, you get to make a difference every single day. Your work is valuable, and our government will always be here to support you. So today's agreement will create good, well-paying jobs and greater opportunities for professional development to grow a strong, skilled workforce for early childhood educators. Because supporting the recruitment and retention of qualified childcare workers will be key to the long-lasting success of this plan. Depuis le début de cette pandémie, on a eu à relever plusieurs défis et on a vu à quel point on est capable d'arriver à des résultats concrets quand on travaille ensemble. Et c'est dans cet esprit de collaboration qu'on veut bâtir un avenir encore meilleur. Avant de terminer, je veux remercier encore une fois le Premier ministre Furey pour son leadership sur ces différents dossiers. Andrew, I've known for a long time just how committed you are personally to building a better and cleaner future for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and it's been a joy these past many months to work alongside you and your extraordinary team as we've gotten things done. Thank you for your collaboration, and mostly, thank you for your leadership as I continue to look forward to working with you and your team as true partners, not just for the future of Newfoundland and Labrador, but for the future of the entire country. Because together, we will build a future where everyone has a real and fair chance at success. Merci beaucoup, mes amis. Merci, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Wonderful news for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador today. And we're also going to be having a special guest join us, Ocean Wayland, who is one of our students who just graduated from our early childhood education program. And she's actually going to be able to talk about some of the challenges and some of the things that she's overcome as a student and now as she is working in the field. So this is actually wonderful news, and we'll get the perspective of a recent student. So this is great. I would like to call upon Premier Andrew Furey to say a few words.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for joining us here today. What a beautiful day. It's like this every day here in Newfoundland and Labrador, of course. Thank you, Prime Minister, for your kind remarks and the opening today. Truly, equally reflect on our friendship and how much good we have done in such a short period of time. I look forward to many, many more years of doing great work for not just Newfoundland and Labrador, but indeed the country. I'd also like to thank Minister O'Regan, and of course, my dear friend, for being here today, and Minister Hussain for making the trip all the way from Toronto. And of course, Minister Osborne, the two of you for your dedication with your team and getting this early childhood educating deal done. Thank you, Liz and Cabinet and members of my caucus and the federal caucus for joining us here today as well, and for all of you joining virtually. What a huge day for Newfoundland and Labrador. This is exactly the kind of significant work we can accomplish for the benefit of all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, all Canadians, when we collaborate and work with our federal partners. My friends, no matter where I travel throughout this province, one pervasive concern came up again and again. From pensioners to new mothers, I could see it in every face. Even more so, I could feel the want and the need for answers. Will power bills double? Today, with all due respect to the esteemed colleagues in the room, I want to speak directly to those people, to you, the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Those Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who in town halls and in their homes ask me over and over and over again, what are we gonna do about Muskrat Falls? To those people, I'm so proud to say that today, Wednesday, July 28th, we have the best news, fantastic news. Today, the weight begins to lift, and we can all breathe a measured sigh of relief. With the support of the Prime Minister, a deal has been reached that answers rate mitigation for Muskrat Falls. That was the single top priority for me when I took office just under a year ago. We all know that when this project was announced, the rate proposed was over 15 cents per kilowatt hour. The budget was set at $6.2 billion and a time frame of 5 years. Now, we don't have to revisit history to know that that budget doubled, that timeline doubled. And what I heard throughout the province was the fear of an equal, crippling doubling of electricity rates. But today, thanks to our negotiations with our federal partners, the outlook is better. It is brighter. Our power rates will not double. They will actually be less than that was originally proposed at sanction. My friends, exhale. This $5.2 billion deal is a large moment in Newfoundland and Labrador history that comes at a critical time. The federal government will invest $1 billion in an asset share and contribute another $1 billion in loan guarantees. But, and here's the big but, our province maintains ownership. There is no giveaways. Bigger still is something that every administration in the last 20 years or more has argued for, stretched for, but has been unable to succeed at obtaining. And that's to bring the profits from Hibernia home. That means $3.2 billion in revenue will now belong to Newfoundland and Labrador, to each and every one of you at home. The entire team involved should be commended for helping achieve this monumental success, including, of course, the Prime Minister himself, who I know was personally involved in this file and active on it on a daily basis, Minister O'Regan, Minister Freeland, Minister LeBlanc, and of course, my friend and counsel, Brendan Paddock, who led the team of negotiators for here in the province. This is a huge day, and the entire team in bringing should equally be commended for bringing $10 a day childcare to Newfoundland and Labrador. Affordable childcare has always been a priority for me, It was part of my campaign platform, and it was really the first piece of true policy that I passed when becoming Premier. Throughout the province, I've heard story after story of families, single parents, new immigrants, guardians, all having to make tough financial decisions and sacrifices for their children, for our province's children, for our future. So taking that first step to introduce $25 a day childcare was one of the first things that I did as Premier. It meant relief was here, and family budgets could stretch a little bit further. It put us at the forefront of affordable childcare across the entire country. Today's announcement will mean that we can stretch household budgets even further, and we will be the first to achieve $10 a day childcare across our great nation. This action plan, with more than $300 million of support from Ottawa, will increase access to childcare, improve affordability, and improve equality and inclusivity of early childhood training programs. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians no longer need to worry about how they will pay for their power bills when Muskrat Falls come online, and they equally now have some relief when it comes to affordable childcare. And the burden, of course, of paying for childcare has become so much lighter that it will allow us to realize the untold economic benefits as families, as women in particular, reach their full potential and drive our economy into the future. So today is indeed an important day for Muskrat Falls and the future of our province in childcare. One that lets us all pause for a moment and take stock of where we are. We will not be defeated. We know there are challenges, but we will not be defeated because we are Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. The history of this place is woven deeply into our hearts. We've been down before. We've seen hard and harder times still. A mere generation ago, our communities only had each other to rely on. Then, through Confederation, Canada extended a hand. One that we chose to join a family, chose to want better and to find a path to reach it, chose to marry our immense resources with raw opportunity, chose to embrace a dream. Our Canadian dream has always been to be a part of this family, one that recognizes our values, treats us with respect, and helps us realize our immense opportunities. This Prime Minister and this Liberal government do exactly that. And for the battles we are facing, I can't think of anyone that I'd rather have in the trenches with me than Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. My friends, there is no question Newfoundland and Labrador still has tough waters to navigate. But our direction is true, our spirit is strong, and we will continue, always, always, forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Premier Furey, and I echo the Premier's thoughts. This is a fantastic day for Newfoundland and Labrador. Veuillez maintenant souhaiter la bienvenue à l'honorable Ahmed Hussein, ministre de la Famille, des Enfants et du Développement social. Now please welcome the Honorable Ahmed Hussein, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Premier Furey. Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Prime Minister, let me start by saying it's good to see you again. It feels like just yesterday when we were delivering more help for families. And I also want to thank our amazing members of Parliament from Newfoundland and Labrador, Scott, Cherance, Ken, Goody, and of course, Yvonne Jones, as well as my good friend and colleague and Minister Seamus O'Regan. Thank you. I know that you understand the importance of delivering affordable, inclusive, high quality, and accessible childcare for Newfoundland and Labrador families. And of course, I want to thank Premier Furey and Minister Osborne for your collaboration, your partnership, and your ambition in this space, so that we are today arriving at a historic agreement. En tant que père de 3 jeunes garçons, permettez-moi de dire ce que tous les parents pensent. Enfin, I think the most important, impressive part of this agreement is how quickly families will see the change in their bank accounts and their pocketbooks, thanks to Newfoundland and Labrador committing to reaching our $10 a day target 3 years ahead of schedule. That's not even, close to anyone else. Tout ce que nous voulons entendre. Tout ce que nous voulons en tant que parents est de donner à nos enfants le meilleur départ possible dans la vie. At the end of the day, all we want for our kids is the best possible start in life. And we've been there with Newfoundland and Labrador from the beginning. Since 2017, our government has invested over $26 million in early learning and childcare as part of a bilateral agreement with Newfoundland and Labrador. Our work together has built over 1,200 new affordable childcare spaces in this province. We've helped build more and create more bursaries and professional training programs for early childhood educators. But when you achieve progress like this, you don't stop. You keep building on it. You keep going and reaching even further. And we need a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system now in Newfoundland and Labrador. Our kids are growing up fast, and there's simply no time to waste. So thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Premier. Thank you to my colleagues and partners. Thank you to the civil servants. I want to really particularly thank Annette Gibbons, who's here today. She's flown here. She's from Newfoundland and Labrador, and she worked really hard from our department to get us here. Karen Hall and Catherine Adam. And I got to say, today is a historic day. It is not only a good day for families in Newfoundland and Labrador, but it is a good day for all families in Canada. And on that note, I'd like to now turn it over to a great colleague who has spoken to me on the phone so many times that he would care to speak to me, but I'm just joking. Minister Osborne, it's been a pleasure to get to know you. It has been a pleasure to work with you to deliver on this. You have worked tirelessly with us to get this across the finish line, and I could not have asked for a better partner. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Well, I can say since the announcement on rate mitigation, Liz, you're not afraid to turn the heat on anymore. Well, thank you, Minister Hussane, for the kind introduction. Prime Minister, your dedication to both announcements today, thank you and welcome back to our beautiful province. Premier, when the Premier first announced that he asked me to be his Minister of Education, this is one of the files he said is absolutely important to him, and he was absolutely dedicated to this throughout the whole process. Premier, it's an honour to be able to work with you on this file. Minister O'Regan, thank you for joining us and for your dedication as well. We have Ocean here who's going to speak, I think, after me. And for anybody who doesn't know, she won a scholarship in her field. I'm not sure if she's going to tell you a little bit about that, but for any early childhood operations who are looking for somebody, snatch her up before somebody else does. Today, we are making significant sector-wide changes in the early learning and childcare that will provide children with a quality early learning experience and allow them to smoothly transition into the K-12 system. Affordable childcare has been a priority of Premier Furey and our government. This agreement with the federal government will see $347 million invested in childcare in our province between 2021 and 2026. And I believe, Prime Minister, my understanding is you're bringing in legislation to ensure that that continues. So thank you for that. Between now and then, we will create over 5,800 new childcare spaces throughout the province. Working with not-for-profit, municipal, and family childcare groups. Starting in 2023, we will introduce a new pre-kindergarten program. This optional early learning and childcare program will be available full-time to all 4-year-olds by 2025-26. This will not only create more childcare spaces, it will provide children with a strong foundation entering kindergarten the year after. From the $25 a day childcare that we announced, the initiative of Premier Furey this past January, we will use this federal investment to bring the cost of regulated childcare to $15 a day starting January 1st, 2022, and to $10 a day in 2023. So in addition to these major improvements and changes, I'd like to speak to some aspects of the plan that are focused specifically on the areas of quality and inclusiveness, which will be one of great importance to early learning and childcare. We will undertake work with a consultant to conduct labor force adjustment analysis specific to early learning and childcare educators, or ECEs. Their work will inform the creation of a wage grid for ECEs by the end of 2022, with full implementation by 2023. So this, along with the expanded career options associated with pre-kindergarten, including the requirement for additional professional development and upskilling, and the reflected wages that come with pre-kindergarten, will be key components to attracting new ECEs. Pre-kindergarten will be a standardized program across the entire province, based on the province's early learning framework, ensuring that 4-year-olds are better prepared to enter the K-12 system. We will also be creating an early learning and childcare advisory committee, featuring a wide range of practitioners and experts in the field, which will advise on a wide range of sector issues. So today we are joined by Skye Crawford-Taylor from the Association of Early Childhood Educators, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Joanne Morris from the Early Childhood Educators Human Resource Council. I envision both of these groups will be participating in that committee. As we've been negotiating this agreement and plan with the federal government, we've also been putting the pieces in place to meet the commitments of this ambitious plan. The Premier alluded to the fact that CNA will be an important partner in the delivery of this plan, and I would like to echo that thanks to Liz Kidd, as well as her team that are here today. So in addition to our partners with the College of the North Atlantic, we are also joined by Craig Tucker, President of Kean College, and Lisa Lovelady, Vice President Academic and Chief Operating Officer with Academy Canada. We have many discussions with our post-secondary already, and the wheels are in motion. We will work with our post-secondary partners to enhance and expand program offerings and to identify potential new forms of program delivery. All of this will be done with a focus on increasing the number of fully qualified ECEs certified and working in regulated early learning and childcare settings. As part of our agreement with the federal government, we are committing to increase the percentage of qualified ECEs by 15% by the end of 2023 and 60% by the end of 2025. We are also committing to support those training to become ECEs by increasing the value of grants and bursaries. I'd now also like to recognize two other groups that are joining us here today. Valerie Collins is the Coordinator of Family and Childcare Connections, and Jason Brown and Olga Sullivan, who are CEO and General Manager, respectively, of the Provincial YMCA. And I'd like to thank them for hosting myself and Minister Hussain today for the visit to your Early Learning and Childcare Centre. Family Childcare Connections provide programs and services designed to support children from birth to 6 years of age and their families and the childcare community. Through this agreement, we will provide funding to them to expand further into the Avalon region and into the Central and Labrador regions, providing supports for family home-based childcare providers throughout the province. The YMCA are a not-for-profit organization and are exactly the sort of group that will benefit from this federal funding for childcare space creation. They are close to opening another childcare centre in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and we are delighted to see that they are expanding in Labrador and looking at other areas of the province to address the current need. These groups will be supporting our commitment in the action plan to enhance the existing childcare capacity initiative with a focus on creating additional spaces in rural communities, linguistic minority communities, and Indigenous communities. Our action plan includes a heavy focus on creating and expanding educational opportunities for ECEs throughout the province, including in Labrador. And to that end, and as a direct result of this agreement, the College of the North Atlantic are planning to expand their early childhood educator program offerings in Labrador West, Happy Valley Goose Bay, St. John's, and Corner Brook. And you are working on others. So the Happy Valley Goose Bay, Labrador West, the St. John's, and Corner Brook will be by November of this year. This, along with the greater focus on attraction and retention of ECE workers, including the wage grid and other initiatives to make this a more attractive career choice, should help new and existing operators in Labrador with the current challenges they face. This is an issue for every province and territory across Canada. Both the federal and provincial governments recognize this as a national issue, and we've made this a major focus of this agreement. The guests that I've acknowledged today are crucial partners to the future of the sector in this province. We will support them and future partners through this federal funding. These are just a few of the initial examples of the efforts we will undertake to make this plan successful. Our goals are ambitious, we recognize that. But I also know they are achievable. We recognize that in the early stages of this rollout, demand will outpace the number of available spaces and the staff required to make the plan work. And that is why we've already begun working with our partners that I've identified so that by 2025-26, we will have bridged the current gaps in the system. In closing, I want to announce today that we have opened online public consultations on the Child Care Act and the future of the sector, including how we will implement our action plan. Details on participation will be available in the news release that we are issuing today. I want to once again thank the Prime Minister, our Premier, and Minister Hussen. And I will say, Prime Minister, that we have developed a solid working relationship. He has been dedicated and professional. I like your minister. So I want to thank all of them for this collective drive to make this plan a reality. I also want to recognize Annette Gibbons, the many phone calls that we've had in your dedication, my Deputy Minister, Greg O'Leary, Mary Goss-Prowse, and Candice Williams with the province. We are enthusiastic partners with the federal government in supporting families and children in Newfoundland and Labrador. The course we are charting today will transform early learning and childcare in this province. It will increase access to affordability as we work towards $10 a day early learning and childcare. It will increase spaces. It will increase initiatives to attract and retain ECEs. And it will introduce a standardized, quality pre-kindergarten program throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Osborne. And I just want to let everybody know that last week when the Prime Minister's office was here and they were doing their tour, it was about 8 degrees outside. We fooled them. But I was also told that weather is a federal issue, so please address your remarks over here. We now have a special guest with us today, a graduate of College of the North Atlantic's Early Childhood Education Program, Ocean Whalen. Ocean was also recently bestowed a prestigious award, as mentioned by Minister Osborne. She received the Joanne Juteau Early Childhood Education Scholarship Award, which is awarded by the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Newfoundland and Labrador. The scholarship was given to Ocean based on her 4.0, I repeat, 4.0 grade point average, her volunteer work, leadership skills, and community involvement. And this award was named in honor of a provincial government employee whose life was dedicated to early learning and childcare. Please join me in welcoming Ocean.
Okay. Oh. Thank you, Ms. Kidd. I can't begin to describe what an honor it is to be here today. Looking around this college where I grew as an early childhood educator, I am happy to see many people who share the same passion as I do about educating children. I know that in our province and all of Canada, so many children's lives are touched by educators like me during the most critical points of their development. I truly believe that it is a blessing to be a part of such a special stage of their lives, even if it is for just a short time. Our curriculum, guidance strategies, experiences, and our nurturing and responsiveness can have an impact that lasts a lifetime. And to me, that's just magical. I want to share a little about my personal journey, how I got here with you today. Let me start by saying I live by the quote, "Be who you needed when you were younger." I had a difficult childhood and youth, and I know the impact that one passionate and dedicated person can have on your life. I grew up poor and endured many difficult circumstances. I had to learn to take care of myself and learn things the hard way in life because I never had the basic foundation of skills that people usually get in their early childhood. I moved out on my own at age 15, worked full-time, often overtime, to provide for myself with no support from anyone else, all to try and break the cycle. In the only way I knew could, which was through hard work. And yes, it was exhausting, but I did it. And it was only when I met my husband, Ahmed, who is here today, that I developed a healthy support system, and I was able to pursue my dreams and move on with my life. I finished my education, first high school, and then my diploma in early childhood education here at the College of the North Atlantic. And it was an amazing experience, to say the least. I learned so much, not just about the field, but about myself as a person. During ECE week, I watched the House of Assembly to see who would win the first ever Joanne Juteau Early Childhood Education Scholarship presented by the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Newfoundland and Labrador. And when I heard Minister Tom Osborne say my name and listened as the rest of them spoke about my hard work as a young mom, wife, full-time student, and an employee with a 4.0 GPA, I just started crying. I was overwhelmed but extremely honored. Through these long and very hard years, I realized that no child should ever have to start off with no skills or skills in all the wrong areas. Every single child deserves the same opportunities and start to life. And I was finally ready to be that person I needed in my life so many years ago. I am passionate about providing high quality, equal, and diverse education to young children in my room and with all children that I work with. I'm passionate about building curriculums that are structured to the needs and interests of children and that intrinsically motivate them to become not only economically successful individuals one day, but happy, healthy, and kind individuals in all aspects of life. I remember when I first started my program, I was fresh off maternity leave. My son was 9 months and not sleeping through the night, and he still does not. I was exhausted and unsure if I was going to be able to do it at all, let alone be successful in my studies. I remember sitting through my first lecture, and I was hearing about these core values of ECEs and what it means to be in the field and work so closely with children, and I just had one of those surreal moments, and something just clicked, and I knew for me personally that being an early childhood educator would be as natural as breathing. Not because it's easy, and not because I wouldn't have to work very hard every day, but because I knew every moment of studying, every late night, and every early morning would be worth it if I get to spend the rest of my life bringing joy and happiness while educating young minds. In this profession, my goal is not just to be a part of the early childhood field, but to help shape it and be an advocate for all children, especially underprivileged children, children who are new to Canada, or are children of new Canadians, as well as children with diverse needs and challenges. I hope to be good enough at what I do to inspire other passionate individuals to complete their education and work in our beautiful field with these beautiful young children. Every single child deserves the best start at life. We need to believe in their capabilities instead of their vulnerabilities. And no barriers, financial or cultural, should be in the way of giving all children equal access to childcare programs. Thank you to everyone that is here today, the federal and provincial governments and Prime Minister Trudeau and Premier Furey for supporting our children today and ECs. Today's announcement is so important to the very core of today's children who will be tomorrow's adults. Together, we can create an environment that encourages children to accept others, to keep discovering, and where we can continue to inspire them and through play. I will finish how I started this talk today on a personal note. My son is my greatest inspiration, my greatest blessing. My husband is our rock, and he has been the greatest support through these wild years. But without access to childcare, I wouldn't have been able to become an early childhood educator, a career that has since made me whole. Because of this, I know that no mother should have to choose between her dreams and her family. I am deeply honored and blessed to be here today, speaking about this beautiful path of life and seeing those who will be impacted by today's exciting news. Thank you.
thank you so much, Ocean, and I'm going to say on behalf of the entire CNA family, we are extremely proud to have been part of your journey and extremely proud that you have chosen a fantastic career and that we are going to be able to support all future ECE students. Ceci conclut notre programme officiel. This concludes our formal program. I now invite back the Prime Minister back to the podium to take questions from the media.
Thank you so much. The question period will be 25 minutes, one question, one follow-up per reporters, starting with the New Network.
Oui, bonjour, Héloïse de Radio-Canada. Monsieur Trudeau, pouvez-vous m'expliquer pourquoi vous avez choisi de dépenser plus d'argent des contribuables dans un projet qui a déjà englouti autant de fonds fédéraux et provinciaux?
Je pense que nous comprenons tous que l'énergie propre va faire va faire partie de l'avenir du Canada de façon encore plus importante dans les années à venir. Et nous reconnaissons à quel point c'est important d'avoir Terre-Neuve et Labrador en santé financièrement et en termes d'un avenir et d'un présent fort aussi. Donc nous sommes là. C'est ce que les Canadiens font. On est là pour s'entraider dans des moments de difficulté. On l'a vu pendant la pandémie. Et on va continuer de le voir quand différentes régions, différentes parties de notre pays font face à des défis. En tant que gouvernement fédéral, j'avais fait une promesse très simple au début de la pandémie qui s'applique à tous les jours, qu'on allait être là pour les Canadiens. Et aujourd'hui, on démontre qu'on est là pour les gens de Terre-Neuve et Labrador.
En suivi, le Québec s'est souvent opposé par le passé à l'aide fédérale pour Muskrat Falls. Est-ce que vous avez peur de vous aliéner des électeurs québécois dans les prochaines élections avec cette décision?
Je pense que les Québécois, comme tous les Canadiens, comprennent à quel point c'est important de s'entraider et de reconnaître quand il y a des défis pour lesquels nous pouvons et nous devons être là les uns pour les autres. Et je sais que les Québécois, comme tous les Canadiens, vont être contents de voir un avenir avec plus d'énergie propre, plus de prospérité pour tous et un meilleur avenir pour tous les Canadiens.
Prime Minister, there are other troubled hydro projects in the country, BC and Manitoba, for example. Why should Canada contribute billions of dollars to what is a provincial project? The mistakes that were made were provincial ones.
We recognize that there were significant mistakes made many years past, but also we recognize that it is important that Canadians be there for one another. That's certainly something we've seen throughout this pandemic. Canadians having each other's backs. It's a promise that this government made, not just to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, but indeed to all Canadians. We'd have their backs as much as it took, as long as it took to get through this pandemic, and that applies to other crises as well. We know the future is going to require more clean energy, more reliable cooperation between provinces across the country, and indeed better prosperity for all Canadians. And the pressures and the challenges faced by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians for mistakes made in the past is something that Canadians all needed to step up on, and that's exactly what we did. Canadians are happy to be there for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, as we will continue to be there for people right across the country.
And a follow-up question for the Premier. Your predecessor, 2 years ago, Dwight Ball, promised that with rate mitigation, rates would be stuck at 13.5 cents a kilowatt hour. Now the number is 14.7. Why weren't you able to stick to that number that was promised by Mr. Ball?
Sure. I think if you look closely into his comments, it was 13.5 until the end of 2021. I've always been on the record as saying 13.5 until commission. We know commission was coming. We know commission was coming in November, and subsequently that increased the urgency and the acuity of the issue that we were facing. And then thank God the federal government was there to step up and let us recognize the problem and help us navigate the solution. So I always committed to 13.5 to 13.5 until commission, and I believe that's what the intent of. I can't speak for former Premier Ball, but I believe that was the intent. Certainly, if you look at the numbers that were articulated during the time of sanction, and you look through the LeBlanc report, of course they were talking about rates that were well over 15 back when this project was first announced. That assumes, by the way, that the budget would be 6.2. It's not. It's 13 point plus. that it also assumed it was going to be 5 years. It's not. It's now 2021. We still haven't gone to commission. So they were recognizing that the cost of this project was well beyond 13.5, even at the time that this project was at its inception and then subsequently sanctioned. So I was never committed to 13.5, and of course we all know, we all live and breathe, prices of things do go up. Our hope would be that as we turn to electricity as a renewable source of energy, that will provide a market, a shift in the market that will allow the price to stay more competitive than ever before. So what I mean by that is more people turn to electricity to drive their vehicles. It will obviously drive the rate in the right direction. When we're really hopeful that that is the place that this province can achieve in the future. The other thing that may be lost in some of this deal is that we still have excess energy up there that we can monetize to ensure that we have, as a treasury, the ability to pull certain levers should rates get different than, for some unforeseen circumstance that you can't predict right now. And that's where our government has always been, to try to risk mitigate overall, not just for what's good for tomorrow or the next day or even the next election cycle for that matter, what's better for the future of the province. And I think that this deal is a good one that allows us the freedom and autonomy to set our own course.
Fitzpatrick. I'm with Atlantic Business Magazine. For the Prime Minister, I'm actually wondering, it's come up in discussions around Canada Infrastructure Bank funding, but I'm wondering in relation to what's been announced today, what you would say to anyone expressing a concern that Eastern Canadian power, Labrador power, could be slapped with the label of subsidized power and challenged in terms of trade into the United States?
Canada has negotiated a large number of trade deals over the past 5 years, from NAFTA to CETA to the CPTPP. We've demonstrated an ability to both stand up for our workers, whether it was standing up for steel and aluminum workers against the Trump tariffs that were unfairly put on us, whether it's standing up for our agricultural producers around the world, whether it's just being there to ensure that we're sticking up for Canadian industry and Canadian competitiveness right around the world, even as we became the only G7 country to have a free trade deal with every other G7 country. We are a government that understands the importance of trade, the importance of free and robust fair trade, but as well will never make any apologies for standing up for Canadians, because that's our job.
Just in a quick follow-up to that, then, would you consider it subsidized power at this point, power in Labrador?
I think we continue to work as partners, whether it's paid for by the province, whether it's paid for by the federal government in part. Taxpayers contribute. They're the same taxpayers all across the country. We build projects so that we can ensure that we are creating a better future with good jobs and affordable energy for everyone.
Kellyanne Roberts, NTV News. Prime Minister, many feel that this is now an election move, that this was needed 3 years ago for the province, and that if this deal isn't signed by October, then the PUB has to go with existing contracts. What do you say to people that says this should have happened 3 years ago?
I think there are many things that we've been working on for many, many years that do take time, and that's certainly something that we can talk about on the child care, which were conversations that we started well before the bilateral deal signed in 2017. And it is being able to come to this point at which everything came together for a historic child care agreement that was launched tangibly with the presentation of Budget 2021 by Canada's first woman finance minister, who demonstrated that we understand deeply the impacts of this she-cession that we've gone through because of the pandemic. Similarly, the conversations I've had over the years with all the different premiers of Newfoundland that I've had the privilege to work with, Newfoundland and Labrador that I've had the privilege to work with, sorry Yvonne, I'll make sure I remember, is extremely, has been productive. We've worked, as you will remember, on many different initiatives, whether it was $320 million for support for the oil and gas workers, whether it was $75 million for emissions reductions over the past number of months. We're going to continue to work and get things rolling as quickly as possible. That's what Canadians and indeed Newfoundlanders and Labradorians expect from us, and that's what we'll keep doing.
This is an agreement intent in principle. So until ink hits paper, I think a lot of people will struggle to believe it's going to come to fruition. When do you plan on signing for this to happen?
Well, you know, when even reporters are saying, wow, this deal sounds too good to be true, it's a very good day for a government to make this sort of announcement. We are there for Newfoundland and Labrador, whether it was talking about the Atlantic Accords, whether it was dealing with so many different concerns that have come up over the past years. I think this federal government has demonstrated that we are going to be there for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and indeed, that we will continue to be there for all Canadians because, like I said, this pandemic has shown us what we all know. Canadians are there for each other when times get tough.
Hi there, question for the Prime Minister. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Canadian Press. Last week, your government pledged to resettle Afghans who worked with Canada over the past 2 decades. Successful applicants can move to the country with their children and spouses, but many say their parents and extended family remain under threat from the Taliban because of their work as interpreters or staff members. Will these parents and extended family be allowed to resettle in Canada under this newly announced program?
As you know, our Minister of Immigration and foreign ministers and others have worked extremely hard to ensure that Afghan people who were there to support Canadians, to help in our missions and our hard work overseas, continue to be kept safe. And not put at risk because they were helping Canadians. And obviously our priority is helping them and their immediate families. But I can highlight at the same time that we are continuing to expand the family reunification programs available to all Canadians, to all immigrants and permanent residents to Canada. And this is something we will continue to look at.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has asked Governor General Mary Simon to turn down any request from you to dissolve Parliament and call an election. The Governor General does have this power, but the last time that happened was in 1926. Do you think that she should accede to a request from you to call an election, and that her refusal will undermine Canada as an independent country where power lies with the House of Commons and the government?
Our focus as a government is and has been being there for Canadians, being there through this pandemic and being there as we rebuild better, as we create a more prosperous country with more opportunities for everyone from coast to coast to coast. That has been my single-minded focus throughout this pandemic, and it's unfortunate that regularly on important issues, from net zero legislation to banning conversion therapy to protect LGBT kids, to moving forward on eliminating mandatory minimums to help communities that are racialized and more vulnerable, or whether it's moving forward on continuing to ban and firm up the ban on assault weapons. When Conservatives in the House used every procedural tactic to try and delay, to block, to slow things down, the NDP stood aside and watched. They could have stood with us to move forward faster on these important progressive pieces of legislation, but they didn't. So we've seen that even during a pandemic, even as we were able to get out historic supports for Canadians, I think Canadians deserve to have governments and parliamentarians focused on them, not focused on politicking. That's what we've been as a government, and that's what we will continue to do every single day.
Afternoon, Alex Bill from All Newfoundland Labrador. Was the net profit interest from Hibernia a topic of communication between your government and either the Furey or Ball governments prior to these negotiations over Muskrat Falls, or did it arise after these negotiations began?
I can tell you that even as a non-Newfoundlander, I know this has been a topic of conversation for Newfoundlanders for a very, very long time. We are glad to be able to move forward and make sure that Newfoundlanders can properly benefit from a project that they have led for so very long.
We heard earlier today from Peter Bernashue that the Innu were largely left out of these negotiations, and in fact are concerned that they may be facing costs if dividend payments from Muskrat Falls are deferred. And in the technical briefing that this more or less didn't come up. Is this something that is going to have to be looked at in a different way before this agreement is finalized?
Reconciliation is something of fundamental importance to our government, as we've demonstrated time and time again. But it's not just about the federal government. It's also very much around provincial governments. And I know that Premier Furey is well placed to speak to this issue on the Innu.
Thanks. Of course, we look forward to working with the Innu moving forward. We had a technical briefing with them last night from officials, and then they were part of the technical briefing this morning. And I mean, as you can see from the details of the agreement in principle, this has been, even though it's been done as it should be, commercially kept, to officials. We've been fairly transparent. All this stuff, if you look at the tape from December, was stuff that we were talking about back then. So there was nothing really hidden in any of the levers that we pulled really to get here. But we certainly, I have a great relationship and speak with Indigenous leaders every single week. I speak with the Indigenous leaders more than I speak with my own cabinet, sorry. But I'm sure that this will be as they are briefed and as we all understand the deal better, I'm sure they will be more happy as the details become more available to them.
Thank you. Question for the Prime Minister. It's Brian Callahan from VOCM News. Prime Minister, much has been made of the so-called Atlantic Loop. Some people still aren't quite sure what that entails, as well as the region being the so-called green battery for, the region, rightly so with Muskrat, clean energy, so-called clean energy. I'm just wondering what, if any, other concerns from those other players, whether it's the provinces, the Atlantic provinces, or Quebec, or Hydro-Quebec, were there any consultations there to give them heads of what's going on? Was there support, or possibly was there any negative reaction to this deal?
I can say over the past number of months and indeed years, when we've been working on a very strong Atlantic growth strategy, the idea of clean electricity is of utmost importance, particularly to those provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick among them, that are still relying on less clean sources of electricity. The obvious ability to tie together Atlantic provinces and Quebec in access to clean hydropower that is going to be an important part of our future is a goal that we all share. Yes, there's always going to be conversations and ways to work things through, but I can highlight that the strong working relationship both within the Atlantic region as premiers and with the federal government has always led us to being able to work together well, and we will continue to do just that.
And we haven't touched any of those assets, right?
Yeah.
Right, so
Follow up for the Premier, if that's no offense.
There you go.
So just to follow up on that, all of those assets are still, still green in the figurative sense too. They've been untouched. So, none of this deal is predicated on any of that development. So we still have, as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, incredible opportunities in front of us as we emerge from not just the pandemic, but merge into the new economy, which is green-based. And we know that all the other Atlantic provinces are going to need to access some of this energy that we have. But this deal is not predicated on any of that. So there are no giveaways in this deal. This is just dealing with the first part, which I always said, as you'll remember, and you look at the tapes, the loop may be circular, but this deal has to be linear, and it has to start with Muskrat Falls.
If I could shift gears just back to, we saw earlier the photo up with the children here, and I'm just wondering, you made immigration, of course, a pillar of one of your, I think might have been the top 3.
It is.
As there's very little diversity reflected today with the children here. Now, I bring this up, I've already had a few tweets. It's just as reaction, just wondering, some people don't feel it's reflective of the new immigrant community that's been blossoming in this province.
Well, I can tell you that the children that were there were beautiful and all very happy to see us all. I think what's more important is look at where we want to go as a society and as a government. I've been firmly committed to immigration. I would say it's, if not top 3, it's within the top 3, if not the top 1 of our policy moving forward. you've heard me say, everything else is an accounting exercise. We have a real demographic problem here, and if we don't address it through driving the population through healthy immigration, doubling the targets, we've revamped the immigration department entirely. It's a new style of doing business with respect to immigration, and we hope that when there's a prime minister and a premier here in 10 years, that those children will look very differently.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
Hang on, here's what I'm looking for. Oh, I'm going to throw some of this on, and failing that, I'm going to eat it.
So, Kevin, what about...
Jesus, it's not open.
I read one time that
Uh-oh.
that you were a part owner of the Old Triangle.
Yes.
Are you still pub owner?
Still involved. The pub's still going great. There's 4 of them now.
Wow.
And you know all about that.
So with
it's-
Brian, right? Brian Dorr.
Yes, Brian Dorr and his wife Cheryl.
Yeah, and his wife Cheryl, yeah.
There were originally 3 of us and Cheryl involved, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we used to put forward the whole thing with the band, of course, you
Right,
know.
right.
And then there were 2, and Cheryl, and you know, that's where it sits right now. But Brian's young fellas, I think the whole point of it was way back when, eventually, Brian's young fellas would,
Would
like,
take it
when
over.
the 2 old guys are kind of would take it over.
Oh, but that's a good plan.
It was a great plan. It's still on the go.
That's called what do you call that?
Legacy.
Legacy.
You're welcome.
I was thinking of succession planning, really, because I'm really boring, but I don't have that. See, I don't have any children, so I have no succession plan with mine. I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Oh, I don't either.
And you got lots of children.
Hey, Raj, you'll get up there and say,
How we doing?
Larry, want to buy a pup?
How we doing? Are we doing?
You
All
got
right, I'm
children.
done, boss.
Oh, you got 2 minutes left, Kevin, so you take the time.
Oh no, I'm just looking for a bit of paprika.
Larry, did you ever have
I
the
took it
chance?
on. It's over on my side.
Larry, if you had the chance to pick someone to play with that you've never played with, who would that be?
Wow, that's an awesome question.
That is a good question.
I'm going to ask you too, Kevin.
Okay, I'm done. He's done.
I would. Dead or alive?
Dead. Oh, doesn't matter.
I think Richard Thompson.
Richard Thompson.
Probably. But then also, like, no, he'd be my folk guy, but my country guy would be Merle Haggard. Like,
Right.
Or Dwight Yoakam.
Right,
either
you
one of
love
those.
country just as much.
Yeah, well,
because
they're one and the
A-Track
same
Faves
in
is
my
a
mind, you know.
Very successful band as well, that you are the founder and front guy of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For also probably almost 20 years
How
doing
about you,
that.
Kevin? Who would be somebody you'd like to perform with?
I knows.
Okay, tell me. Oh, well, yeah, but
He's already
Larry,
doing that.
Larry, seriously.
That's already
Trouble
over.
with the memory. We do that every week. Well, I've been lucky enough to already have played with Richard Thompson, but I would play with him again. I think Larry is right. He is absolutely an inspiration. Great writer, very unique player. He's English though.
Well, that's
He's
all
kind of north.
Can we drink some of this?
Yes, absolutely. Well, that was fantastic. Look, you're clearly both very well versed with the kitchen. Because I gave you 0 protein in your basket, and you managed to put out a main course.
Gentlemen, cheers. Lady, cheers. Cheers up.
That was fantastic. I can't wait to try it. We come back.
Oh, you
we'll
have to
find
eat
out.
it. Oh no. Oh no. No.
Oh, mine's going to be deadly. I know it.
We'll find out who wins. Stay tuned to Stop Off. Welcome back to Scoff Off. Well, guys, that was fantastic. You clearly know your way around the kitchen, both of you. They both look different. This is more like a burrito-style looking tortilla thing, and yours is more like obviously it's a taco.
It's a food truck kind of deal.
Okay, so Larry, tell me about how you use the ingredients.
Well, oddly enough, I saw the shrimp, your cocktail shrimp in there earlier.
Yes.
And when I saw the coleslaw, even though I did so sort of consciously, I thought shrimp cocktail slaw.
Okay.
So that's why I got the mayo and a little bit of ketchup in there to give it a tomato zest, and a little bit of
remoulade sauce.
There you go. Thanks. Whatever you want to call it. And then you had the cilantro in there, which I knew would go perfectly with that, and it's a bit of chicken kind of.
So you got
fajitas, taco fajita slash.
You got your cucumber in there. You use your tortilla, and so you got all your ingredients.
All of my ingredients are in there.
Okay. Well, seemed you put the lemon there.
You gotta have a little of that on there, yeah.
Okay. I like the way you charge your tortilla. It brings extra flavor.